Alrighty, welcome back. We are going to make, do you see this white 3D printed plastic part here? That is what we are going to make today. Let's pause. So this part, I suppose it's the chassis of the bot. It's the part that all the other things either screw onto or attach to somehow. So let's make that. First off, I'm on my front view here, but my microbit is sideways. Here the microbit is upright, but here it's leaning that way. There are a few ways to rotate it. One way is to go to modify and then move and copy. I normally try to move components. So instead of moving bodies, move components. And I want to move, normally I don't like clicking on a component because then, I'll show you what I mean. If I click on a component, maybe it clicks on the child, which is the micro USB port or some resistor or some little piece of copper or a logo, or maybe it does the parent, which is the whole microbit. So if I go cancel and do that again, modify, move, that's why I always do components and then click on the component in the browser down the side. Don't click on the screen because then it's not clear exactly what component you're moving. Click on a component down here. I said, let's go back to my front view, click on front. There we go. Now I said that the microbit here needs to be upright. So I would click on the microbit here. Remember, make sure this is on components, then click on the microbit, and now I can use this wheel to rotate it. Do you notice that it's because it's a joint, the other part comes with it? So I can use the wheel here to rotate it, and I can use either these arrows or this square to move it, to translate it, I suppose. Left, right, up, down. And let's put it right there. Okay, cool. So now let's look around. Good. So now my microbit is roughly in the right direction. Okay. So we want to make this white plastic part. Every part you make should be in its own component. It makes it a lot easier later, a lot easier to fix problems. So let's make a new component. Change the name to be, I'm going to call this the chassis. CHSSIS. A chassis is like the main metal part of a car that everything else attaches to. So we can go OK, and now we have an empty chassis. You'll notice a few things. Everything else is now semi-transparent because it's not active. There's a dot next to the chassis to show that this is the active component. Yeah, and this thing is empty. There's nothing inside it. See? Boop. Nothing inside it. So let's make the chassis. This will be easiest to do from above, I think. So let's go to a top view. We will need 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe before I start, let's have a rough estimate of how wide apart these holes are. If I click on inspect and click on the first hole, and then I click on the second hole, do you notice that the mouse shows the ring of the hole and highlights it? We can see that they are about 6 centimeters apart. And in the other direction, if I now make it a bit bigger, I'll go close, click on inspect, I can click on this hole here, and then I can click on this hole here. I don't think I did that right. Restart. This ring, and then this ring. There we go, they're about 33 centimeters. So, in our chassis, I'll go to the top view. I will spin it round with these arrows. There we go. And when you're modeling, although you can model with all of the other things there, I find it's best to right click on the component and go isolate. Everything else goes invisible. There's no chance you'll accidentally click on something else and move it. And you can just focus on one component. So now let's make a sketch. We'll make a sketch in this plane, this top plane. So you click on this yellow surface here. Whenever you're asked this, just go capture position. Good. So we want to make a rectangle. We can go create rectangle. There are a few ways to make a rectangle. I quite like the center rectangle because that means if I click on it, I can click first on the center, which is the very middle of the chassis, called the origin, is the center point, and then move my mouse. And it'll make a nice symmetric chassis so that the center point of my chassis actually is in the middle. I said it was about 60 centimeters, so let's go, let's try, I can type in 8 cm, 8 centimeters, then I can press tab, because I still need to pick how high it is. Maybe I might go 5 centimeters, 6 centimeters. Good, enter. Now, we need to put these holes in. There are a few ways to do the holes. Let's maybe position the chassis underneath the motor driver, and that will help us to position the holes. So I'll go finish sketch. Currently I've activated the chassis, so let's go back to our main root component, you know, the whole assembly. If you click up here, and then click on the dot that's next to it, and that will activate the component. So the chassis is not active anymore. Now the entire assembly is active. You might notice everything else is still invisible. I can right click on any of these really and go unisolate. So isolate just shows one component, unisolate shows them all. There we go, and now I can look around. So it looks like this thing here needs to rotate a little bit and move a little bit. A few ways to do that. I'm going to do it probably with a joint, I think. If I go joint, I can join. What will I join? I want the bottom center of this microbit this motor driver board. So this is the motor driver board, and underneath there is a center point. Click. There we go. And I want that center point to be right on this center point. Click. Good. And it's facing the wrong way. I want it to be, there we go, this way. Excellent. Good. Just to check motion, yeah, it's still a rigid joint. So now these are permanently stuck together. Yeah, okay, I think that's good. Now there are a few things that are confusing here, like the motor I don't want yet, the ball bearing, I can click on the eye, I want to hide it. The servo motor, I can click on the eye, I want to hide it. I don't even really need the microbit. There we go. So now let's go back to the chassis and start adding in the holes. Oh dear, the holes are in the wrong position. Well, that's okay. We'll start making the basic, we won't worry about the holes for now. We'll start making the basic shape. So the chassis, if we look at it, kind of tapers off a bit. By tapers off, I mean it gets skinnier. There you go. So then the servo is up ahead. To show you what I just did, by the way, you go to the line tool, or you can press L. And then I'm going to click on this point here. Not click and drag, just click. And then click where I want to go to. And then click across here, and then here. Now, if I press escape to get out of this tool, you might notice that it's not exactly symmetric. And you might also notice that these lines are black, but these ones are blue. Black lines are fixed. You know, I've said 60 millimeters tall, 80 millimeters wide. I've said where the center is. This shape is fixed. There's no flexibility. But this one, there's lots of flexibility. So let's put some more restrictions. They're called constraints. Number one, let's put a constraint on how far this line is from this one. To do that, I click on this button here, sketch dimension, or I can just press the letter D, and then I click on this line, and then I click on this line and move my mouse to the side and then click. Now I can say how far these lines should be. Let's say maybe 5 centimeters, enter, and then press escape to get out of the tool. Now those are 5 centimeters apart, but there's still a bit of flexibility, isn't there? To make it symmetric, there is a pretty tricky little trick you can do. To do the trick, go in line, make a vertical line in the middle. So we can click on the middle point and then go up and then click again. Press escape to get out of the tool. This line won't be used in our model. It's not actually a real feature that you will see when you 3D print it, for example, but we're going to use this as a line of symmetry. To do that, I might get rid of this, so I've got a bit more room. There you go. There is a constraint called symmetry. If you don't see it, it might be under the list here. If I click on symmetry, and then click on 2 points, like this one and this one, now I can click on the symmetry line, which is this one, like the mirror. Now, press escape, you can see the icon has appeared to show that these 2 points are mirrored along this line. I can make this line a little bit bigger just to show what I mean. So these two are on either side of the mirror and they're both equally far away from that line. If I click on one of these points and drag it around, then they stay like that. They stay the same distance. Okay. I think now I'm ready to make this a 3D sheet, a very thin 3D sheet, but a 3D sheet nonetheless, by going Finish Sketch. So, cool, that's a good looking chassis. How does that fit in with the microbit and motor driver board? If I go back to the main component, activate component, yeah, cool, that looks good. I think that is fine. Okay, so let's hide those things again. We'll go back to the chassis, activate the chassis. To make this thicker, you can click on extrude. I want to extrude this part, and then you can click and drag the arrow. Cool. And I also want to extrude this part. You can see that this is a lot thicker than this thin sheet here. When I made the Really Good Bot, I used a thickness of 3 millimeters. So you can go on the distance there, delete that, and do 3. The default unit is millimeters. So if I click off, it'll be 3 millimeters. There you go, you can see it's 3 millimeters. And then go, okay, cool. Okay, so we've got our basic plate. I'm going to show everything else, and then I'm going to go back here and go activate component. Cool. So we've got that part. In the next video, what I will do is I'll start adding holes, so then we can screw this motor driver onto the plate. And yeah, we'll see these little, they're called boss holes here. So we'll lift up this motor driver from the plate. So it's got a little bit of a distance away from it. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.